Welcome to the Gita in Action podcast. My name's Radha, and I'm here with a family of seekers, and we're reading through the Bhagavad Gita. And today is an especially exciting day for many reasons. One, we're getting ready to we're starting the seventh chapter today, which starts the Bhakti Yoga section of the Bhagavad Gita. So, like the real heart of the Gita, we're starting today. It's also exactly a year since we started this journey together. So we started August 19th of last year. So the same week we started this journey together. And we got through those first six chapters, right? We learned about karma yoga, chapters 1 through 5. We learned about Ashtanga yoga in the sixth chapter, all kind of preparing our hearts and our consciousness for this next chapter, for this next section, um, chapter or chapter 7, knowledge of the absolute. That's what the chapter is called, and it's like I said, starts the Bhakti Yoga section, and we're also just coming off of this ecstatic weekend. We had Janmashtami this past weekend, which was Krishna's appearance day, and right after that, on Sunday, was Prabhupada's appearance day. So it was quite a bhakti weekend. I don't know about you guys, but I'm coming back like super charged, bhakti charged. And I was hoping too that maybe at the end of class we could hear maybe just like a realization from each person that wants to share, at any realization that you had this weekend from the festivities, because it was a really high weekend. And the bhakti experience, it's like it just kind of unfolds like a lotus flower. Does anybody else have this experience? It's like everything that we do, it's kind of this on the outside, it's kind of the same. We're chanting, we're singing, we're feasting, but inside, it's like unfolding, and this connection with God is just getting deeper and deeper and sweeter and sweeter. And for me this weekend, I did something a little bit different. I went to a different group's festivities. I went to Pittsburgh's festivities, and a realization I had this weekend was just how important community is, and like developing deep relationships with devotees, with like-minded souls along this path, and how that really just kind of it's like the glue in our spiritual practice. It just kind of anchors you in spiritual life. And I was really grateful for those relationships and this community. So maybe if any of you maybe you can think about that during class, just maybe one realization, and at the end we could just share a couple. So with that, let's dive into chapter 7. Oh, one thing I thought this morning, maybe we should start doing now that we're really we're moving through the Gita, and we're evolving. Maybe we should start to just say a prayer at the beginning of our class together, of our time here. And I was thinking maybe we just say a prayer to our teachers, right? Because without them, I know without my teachers, I would be completely lost if I would even be here. Um, Teachers kind of save our lives, right? Our material and our spiritual lives, save our spiritual lives, and therefore our material lives are saved, right? So let's just start with that. I was thinking, Mariah, would you want to like lead us in that prayer?
Like the one to Prabhupada?
I was thinking just Om to Marana.
Yeah, let me get my Gita so I can say it properly.
Okay, great. I just sprung that on Mariah. While she's getting it, Stella, do you have a realization from Janmashtami that you'd like to share from the weekend?
Um, yeah, I did. I thought about on Srila Prabhupada's appearance day, how the spiritual master is always with us because my spiritual master is here still, but all the Srila Prabhupada disciples, he's gone, but they seem just as fired up and everything. I don't know, I just felt like my spiritual master will always be with me the way I saw Srila Prabhupada being with his, first disciples. Did I
Aw.
say that right?
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And We all need to come to that realization too, right? Because we're coming to that time where more and more of Prabhupada's disciples are leaving us,
Yes.
and we have to have that heart connection with them. It's not a material connection, it's a spiritual connection. And in that they're with us through their teachings. And it's eternal. That relationship is eternal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Really nice. Are you ready, Mariah? Have you come back?
Yes. All right. Om Agyan Timirandhyasya Jananjana Chalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tashmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadama Mayam Dadati Padantikam. Should I do the English?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes, and with the torch of knowledge, I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? Yeah.
So beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Mariah.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, let's get right into it. We'll start with chapter 7, text 1. Whenever you're ready, Stella.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt."
Thank you. Okay, so the title of this chapter is called Knowledge of the Absolute, right? Which might sound a little bit philosophical, right? But at heart, it's about really getting to know Krishna more personally, right? Who he is, what our relationship with him is, and how that knowledge can completely transform our lives. When we say Krishna, we call God Krishna. It means all attractive. But God has many names, and you may prefer a different name for God. But Krishna, we call God Krishna. Right? So what's happening here in this chapter, we said we're starting to shift the emphasis. And in the first 6 chapters, the focus was largely on detachment, right? Pulling our consciousness away from the material world. And Krishna explained karma yoga in the first 5 chapters, right? Dhyan yoga or meditation in chapter 6. And both processes are important, right? Both center on detachment. We talked about like the stairs, the staircase of the yoga process. You're kind of climbing the stairs. And so now from chapter 7 to 12, just like the top of the staircase is we've arrived at bhakti. Right? Krishna, he's going to highlight a new process, and that's bhakti yoga, which isn't so much about detachment as it is about attachment. It's specifically attachment to Krishna. And so that's where we're going. And it's really beautiful. And just to break down this chapter, we're going to go through like 4 sections in this chapter. And the first section we're going to cover today, verses 1 through 3, really cover the glory of knowing Krishna. Right? And then the next section is going to talk about knowing Krishna in full. Right? He's going to show us his fullness through his opulences, right? Seeing the world through lenses that help us understand how his qualities flow everywhere. And then that knowing Krishna is going to lead us to surrendering to Krishna in the next section. Right? And then after that, surrender to Krishna, it's liberation through knowledge of Krishna. So that's this chapter in a nutshell. Right? The glory of knowing Krishna, seeing him in full, surrendering to him, and then finding freedom through that connection. Okay, so he's inviting us not just to learn, but to experience the absolute truth in a way that transforms our lives. And that's where we're going in this chapter 7. I'm hoping that you're really going to start feeling and experiencing Krishna in a newer and deeper way. Because that's where the Gita is taking us. And in those first 6 chapters, we really kind of prepared our mind and our consciousness for this. right? For this relationship. Up till now in the first 6 chapters, the Gita is really focused on who we are at the deepest level. Right? It's a lot about self-realization, right? Not the body, but the eternal soul. Right? And it's shown us different yogas, the karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyan yoga, right? All as ways of self-realization. Right? Realizing that we're not the body, we're not the soul. This is foundational. This is like the start of our spiritual lives. Right? Realizing that we're something more than just this material body. And then, if you remember at the end of chapter 6, Krishna made it clear, right, that the highest yogi isn't just meditating in silence or performing rituals, right? They're not just out in the forest by themselves, just meditating. Right? The topmost yogi is the one who fixes their mind on him. Right? This steady concentration on Krishna or Krishna consciousness is the essence of yoga. Right? That's what makes the highest yogi. It is where their consciousness is. So now in chapter 7, Krishna is going even further. He's saying, when your mind is on me, then you can know the absolute truth completely. And when your mind is on me, then you can know the absolute truth completely. Without that connection, our knowledge is partial. We've talked about the different realizations of God, right? Seeing God everywhere, right? Like the spiritual light. God is everything. God is everyone, right? So this kind of spiritual light realization, this Brahman realization, it's real, but it's just a partial realization, right? Because God is so much more than that, right? And that leads us to this next understanding of God in the heart, super soul, right? Which is also true, but is still partial. Right? That was the God in the heart is the goal of Ashtanga yoga, right? You get to that place where you understand God in the heart. Right? So now we're coming to this final realization when we connect with Krishna directly, right? We get this full picture. He's the source of the other realizations of Brahman, of Paramatma, the God in the heart. Right? And that's but the Bhagavan realization. That's it. Krishna's a real personal form that we can reciprocate with. Right? We can have loving reciprocation with. This is God. We can think of it. I remember the first time I went to India, and I was very much like on the Brahmin platform. I was very much like just God is everywhere, God is everything. And I remember my yoga teacher at the time explained to me this Bhagavan realization that's like, the sun rays, like you see the sun rays, so you know that there must be a sun, right? And in this way, right, the sun, the source of the sun rays is the sun, right? In the same way that like the Bhagavan realization is like the effulgence of the sun, right? It's like emanating from the sun, right? But that's not the same as the sun, right? There's a source of those rays, right? And that is Krishna. Right? Krishna is the sun. And I was like, I have to think about that a little bit. Right? But we're feeling the sun rays, right? You're feeling the warmth from the sun. You're seeing the glow of the sun, right? But that's not the sun. That's just partial realization of the sun. That's the sun's effulgence. And that's these other realizations of God. Still real, but just not complete. Right? So now chapter 7, we're learning how to get there. We're learning how to get to this realization that God is real. God is a person. God is somebody that we can reciprocate with. Right? This personal form of God. Krishna's telling us how we can get there, and he's making it super practical. Right? We get there, we connect with him through devotional service, and that is bhakti yoga. And bhakti yoga begins very simply with just hearing. Right? That's why Krishna tells Arjuna, just hear from me. Right? And nobody is a greater authority than Krishna. So if we really want to understand the science of God, we need to hear directly from him, right? Through the Gita, right? Or from those who genuinely represent him, like our spiritual masters, like our gurus, like our teachers. Right? So that's the first step here, is this hearing. This hearing. And the Bhagavatam describes this beautifully. When we hear about Krishna, it's actually a purifying act in itself. right? Because God lives in our hearts, right? And it personally helps cleanse away the impurities, the desires like lust, greed, pride. They gradually weaken. And as the heart clears, devotion naturally awakens. It's like clearing out all the weeds in our hearts so that that little bhakti creeper can start to really grow. And then when devotion matures, we become steady. We become joyful. We become free from doubt. Those are like the flowers that are bearing fruit here as the bhakti creeper starts to grow. And the Bhagavatam says that bhakti even cuts the hard knot in the heart. That's the knot of material attachment that keeps us tied up in just endless worry, anxiety, chasing, right? That kind of material mindset. This becomes like our default operating mode, right? Bhakti cuts the hard knot in the heart, right? That knot of material attachment, all those things it cuts. Right? Because as we talked about in the last chapter, we talked so much about the mind, right? And how influential the mind is over us. Just in a moment, it can flip from pure to impure, right? From uplifting to degrading. We heard in 634, Arjuna compared the mind to a raging wind, right? And Krishna agreed with him. He's like, yeah, it's hard to control. So we know that the mind is powerful. Right? It works like a kind of software that processes the inputs from our senses, right? But just like the software can be infected with a virus, the mind can be affected or infected with unhealthy attachments. Like a mind that's addicted to alcohol, for example, like it sees only the pleasure of drinking and ignores the danger of drunk driving. Right? This is how our mind can be programmed, and it can be programmed in ways that are very degrading. Because it's shaped by its experiences. That's how the mind is, it's conditioned. And if it's only experienced worldly pleasures, it's going to think that's all there is. That's natural. That's our mind gets programmed. So that's why we have to give it something higher. We have to be intentional about the programs in our minds. It's not, again, that these other things are bad, but they're just not going to lead to the utmost joy connection that we're going to feel from connection with Source. Right? So we have to give our mind higher experiences. Right? And this influence, it shifts it in a positive direction. This is why we have all these festivals. I was telling my husband this weekend we were going to Janmashtami, and I was like, "Oh, this is the biggest festival. This is a really big." He's like, "You say that about all of them." There's so many. It's like festival after festival. But that's what this is doing for our mind. These festivals, they're creating these samskaras in our minds. This time of connection, this time of coming together, of chanting the Lord's names, right? Of expressing gratitude for our teachers, right? All of these things that we do at these festivals. That's what we're doing. We're reprogramming the mind. We're taking all of those material experiences that are just like they're just on a repeat in our mind, right? Just these default experiences, impressions, and we're replacing them with something higher. It's something that connects us with transcendental realms. That's why we do what we do. And Bhakti's so beautiful. I could take my daughter, my 8-month-old, to these festivals, and she's clapping. She's having such a beautiful time, and she's 8 months old, right? And she's connecting with devotees. She's connecting with the mantra. So she's already starting to create a reservoir of these impressions in the mind. And that's what's happening. Right? But we have to do it intentionally. We have to put ourselves in places that are going to program the mind in that way. Right? And that's what's happening. It's connecting us with Krishna, the reservoir of all happiness. Right? And then gradually the mind begins to realize that absorption in Krishna is more fulfilling than even the most attractive worldly pleasures. Hey, we go to these festivals, we go to these events, right? Or whatever it is, even our chanting in our house by ourselves. We start to realize that we feel more connected, more full, more purified. You walk out of these things, you're like, wow, it's like my consciousness just took a bath, right? And that's what you start to yearn for, those experiences, right? That connection. So that's bhakti. It's the process is simple, yet it's powerful, right? It's transformational. and all these things that we do are intended to bring us there, to connect us with that transcendental energy, to bring us higher. Okay? So this is also why this renunciation by itself can be dangerous. Right? Somebody just tries to dryly detach, right, without connecting to something higher. Because the point of renunciation is to lift our vision up towards Krishna, right? Not downwards towards the world. Okay, but what happens is that if you practice detachment, but you're still fixated on the world, your pride creeps in. Because materialistic people focus on the world so that they can enjoy it through their senses. Right? But if you're detached without being connected to something higher, you may end up focusing on the world to enjoy your detachment. Right? Like by taking pride in feeling superior to those that are still attached. Right? And the problem with that is that when our eyes are still on the world like that, we miss the nectar of the absorption in Krishna. And worse than that is even the pride that comes up that can make us disrespect or even offend sincere devotees who are practicing sincerely, though maybe may not be as detached as we are, right? But this kind of offense displeases Krishna. And when Krishna is displeased, our taste for remembering him begins to dry up. This is why it's like such a dangerous offense to defend a devotee, right? Because Krishna loves his devotees, and that offends Krishna, and that can dry up our taste for remembering him, right? And then when that dries up, because we're pleasure-seeking beings by nature, if we don't have that higher taste, we'll end up slipping back into very worldly things that we can enjoy, right? That we once looked down upon to begin with. So that I just kind of explained the process of if of the danger. It's like trying to detach without connecting to something higher. It's like, walking along a cliff. Like you're just seconds away from like falling over. Because we can get attached to our detachment and we can get proud. And that pride can be the cause of our demise in our spiritual life. So we have to be very careful. This is why bhakti is such a beautiful, simple process, right? It's essential. It's simple, but it's essential, right? To keep our focus on Krishna. We're always connected to something higher in this way, right? We remind ourselves again and again that he is the goal. We cherish the association of those who are genuinely striving towards him, right? And it's this devotional focus, right, that makes our detachment become real, right? Detachment becomes like the little sister. It just naturally happens. It just naturally follows. It just naturally follows along behind our attachment. Right? Because to the degree that we're attached to Krishna, we're detached from material enjoyment, right? Because we're getting so fulfilled by that relationship. And we rise steadily towards absorption in him. That's the process of bhakti. Right? We fill our cup up, we fill our hearts up so full with connection with God that the other things that we used to seek, or we used to reach out for to fill that void, we no longer have a need for. And then so the detachment comes. Does that make sense? Just following that? Okay, so you can see how this first verse of chapter 7 sets this stage, right? He's showing us a process that's not only practical, but it's deeply transformative. Yeah, so we hear about Krishna, step 1, right? And from that, doubts get removed. We know him more fully. We feel inspired to take shelter of him. We practice bhakti through devotional service. Right? And then finally, the mind becomes attached to him. That's like the 6-step process here that happens. We hear about him. The doubts get removed. We know him more fully. We feel inspired to take shelter of him. We practice bhakti through devotional service. And then finally, the mind becomes attached to him. So as we walk this path, the lower poles of lust, greed, right, the modes of nature, they lose their grip. and we become steady, joyful, free from distraction. Right? And the ultimate result is a mind fully attached to Krishna. And that's where lasting peace and joy come from. Right? Because Krishna is supremely joyful. Right? And by connecting with him, we share in that joy. So this is leading us to the same destination that karma yoga and dhyan yoga aim for through detachment. Right? But again, bhakti is takes us by attachment. So again, we talked about those staircases, karma yoga, dhyan yoga. It's like the difference between climbing the stairs, right, and then stepping into the elevator. Stepping into the elevator is bhakti yoga. It takes us right to the top. The other processes will get us there eventually, if our aim is Krishna. But bhakti is like the elevator ride to the top. So Krishna's invitation in this chapter is it's simple, but it's profound. If we're willing to hear from him sincerely and regularly, everything else begins to unfold. Right? Knowledge deepens, doubts fades, the mind naturally attaches to Krishna. And our lives start transforming through devotion. This is the essence of bhakti. It's practical, it's powerful, it's accessible to anyone who truly listens. So he's not offering this abstract philosophy. He's saying, hear from me, keep your mind on me, and I'll give you complete, doubt-free knowledge of the absolute truth. So what makes this chapter so special is that it shifts yoga from being merely about self-discipline to being about living in a relationship with the Supreme Person. True renunciation. It's not about pride in what we've given up. It's about turning our hearts towards Krishna. Right? When he becomes our focus, detachment falls into its proper place. Right? Pride loses its hold. Our connection with fellow devotees remain nourishing rather than strained. So in short here, what he's saying here is hear about Krishna, think about Krishna, let him guide your mind and your heart. And step by step, everything else naturally will just fall into place. It's beautiful. And the process is fun, right? It's uplifting, it's connecting. The process itself makes you joyful. Right? Sometimes like detachment can be dry. It can be hard. It can be austere, right? But bhakti just brings joy to the heart naturally. Right? It's the process and it's the goal. What do you guys think of that?
It's wonderful. It's not like this, it's so simple, but it's just like we almost want to make it more complicated.
Mm,
I know I've been like that before. Like, what do you mean just remember Krishna? That's all I have to do? Like, what do you mean? What about all these other rules? And those other rules are there to help us get to the point of remembering Krishna every day, all day. But ultimately, the goal is the process. Like, remember Krishna, and then one day you'll be with Krishna, remembering him easily.
yeah. Yeah, and everything we do in this culture is to remind us of that. Right? Like even some of us have these names, right? These names are just to remind us of Krishna. Somebody asked me the other day, I was at like this Indian gathering with my daughter, and they were like, "Why'd you name your daughter Prema?" And I was like, "So I can always remember Krishna and she can always remember Krishna." He's like, "Really? That's why you did it?" I'm like, "Why else?" Like that's why we're here. Let's try to remember Krishna. That's why we read the Bhagavad Gita. We learn about Krishna. It's not so that we can, have all this knowledge. No, so that we can learn about our beloved, so that we can develop a relationship. That's why we're doing what we're doing. Shakti,
Thank you. Good morning. Sorry,
good
I was
morning.
late. Um, it's it's so many things, right? Like I remember saying, I told some, I was just one day, I was someplace. I mean, I was so busy all weekend. I went to one Janmashtami party in Toronto, then I went to another one at my group in Burlington, and I got to pull the swing. It's just so beautiful. And someone said to me, oh, like you get up at you get up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock or what at 5:30. You get up, you do that on purpose. Yeah, I do that on purpose because I want to remember Krishna. I want to start chanting. I want to connect. I do want to share with this group because you're actually, I want to cry. You guys are like a family to me. Like I love this group so much. And I bought a Radha Krishna this weekend. I'd love to post it, but they're so beautiful. They're like, I've been watching them in the store in Toronto, and they're this old kind of version, a marble old version, like their face is just not so I like it because it brings me back. Like I know, and I almost feel like they must have this great story from being one temple from another temple, and I'm carrying them in a box and I'm making sure they're all wrapped up. And when I put them out, it's just such care. And like my everything yesterday changed and how I when I put them up on the altar, and I was like, okay, now I'm going to cook some couscous. I'm going to like how I serve, because I had good Anitai, although I was serving them, but how I serve all four of them now has to change for me. I have to take that up a notch. And it's like, why am I up before in the, like, it makes no material sense why I get up so early in the morning so that I can shower, get dressed, clean my body, say my prayers with an achman, ring a bell, like what, like people are like, what are you doing? But it's like, I'm doing it. I'm singing. I'm like, okay, I misspelled that word. I got to say that word again. Like it's so many things. It's to remember, like you said, it's the samskaras. Like I have so many old ones. So I need all of these new ones every single day to continue to shift the brain, the mind, to continue to push out those old ones, maybe from my left ear, and put all of those new ones into my right ear. And I love that you named your daughter Prima. Like I love, like she'll always remember Krishna. You'll every time you say her name, you remember Krishna. Like, and you say her name, I'm sure 50 times a day, especially now. She looked
Yeah.
so beautiful and like just a joy in her. It was so
Oh,
nice at such a young age. Like it's like, I know I say I wish I would have brought my son in that age, but he sees how he sees how I am now, But
yeah.
yeah, it's remembering it's as simple as that. Never forgetting Krishna, always remembering Krishna.
Yeah. Oh,
It,
thank you. Thank you, Stacy. So nice. Yeah.
thank
Stacy's
you.
talking about I dressed my daughter up as Krishna, baby Krishna for Janmashtami. And I sent a picture to some of you. She was like super smiley and it was a blast. She had a blast. We had a blast. Everybody had a blast. So yeah, but just like it's like a simple little thing like that. I think I'll be honest, I spent $38 on the shipping for this costume, which was like ridiculous. Like I'm kind of a cheapo. I would not spend that. But I was like, I just want to see her in a little baby Krishna costume. And as soon as I put it on her, I'm like, this is worth every penny. Like it just makes your heart so happy. It's like just these little simple things, but it makes your heart so happy just to remember Krishna, just to be close to Krishna, right? So, okay, let's move on to 7-2. Whenever you're ready, Stella.
I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know.
Thank you. Okay, so this is a bold claim, right? Krishna is basically saying here, I'm about to give you knowledge that's so complete that once you understand it, there's nothing else you need to know. Right? That's a pretty bold statement, right? So let's unpack what this means here. Okay, so he's talking about these two things, knowledge versus realization. Right? And the idea of knowledge and realization comes up several times in the Gita. Right? So the essence here is that knowledge is what we understand intellectually. It's like the theory. Right? And realization is when that knowledge becomes lived experience, right? Where like it actually transforms our hearts. We've talked about this quite a bit. The difference between just knowing something and then actually seeing it in your life, actually living it in your life. This is just the difference between knowledge and realization. And it's a process. It's a process for all of us. A lot of us know things, but we're not quite there yet in living them. They're not realized enough that we're living them. Right? So, but here Prabhupada is translating these a bit differently here. He's saying that he's describing knowledge as phenomenal, like how things appear. Right? Knowledge is how things appear, and realization is how things actually are. And this matters because reality is deeper than what we see with our own eyes. Appearances can be deceiving. We all know that. We've all lived that. Right? Even Western philosophy wrestles with this, right? Like we observe the world with our senses, then we use reason to figure it out. But the senses and the reason can only take us so far. So Krishna is saying that there's a deeper reality. There's a deeper reality available for us, and he's about to show us how things actually are. So when he says complete knowledge in this verse, right? He says complete knowledge in this verse. It's based on essential principles. Like you'll have all the complete knowledge and that's all you need to know. Just the essential principles, right? Like there's no way to know all the details. Like that's infinite, the details of things. But these principles, right? That the absolute truth is a person, Krishna himself, right? And that he can be known through bhakti, devotion. Right? These principles, that reality is made of these three aspects: matter, spirit, and the controller. Right? So that relationship is explained in this chapter. Right? So in that sense, chapter 7 gives us a full framework. Not every tiny detail, right, but the foundation. So that's what he means here when he says, I'll declare to you in full this knowledge, right? All these principles. Right? And then this being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. So this is it, okay? This is your ticket. This is your golden ticket, and I'm going to give it to you right now. That's what Krishna's giving us here. And Prabhupada's calling this transcendental knowledge, knowledge that directs our consciousness towards Krishna. Again, like that golden ticket, get on the train, your consciousness is going towards Krishna. Right? Anything that helps us remember him and see the world in connection with him is transcendental knowledge. Right? If knowledge doesn't do that, it might be interesting, but it won't ultimately free or transform us. And that's what all of us are really looking for here, right? All of us, whether we know it or not, really want that golden ticket, right? That golden ticket that is going to free our consciousness, where we're going to experience the most connection, the most joy, the most peace in our hearts. And that's what Krishna is offering us here, is that golden ticket to the transcendental realms. So for those of us that study these other books, just to give you a little bit more context of the bigger picture here, the Gita is telling us who God is, right? Like his identity. Right? The Bhagavatam, many of us read the Bhagavatam, that's like showing his activities. Right? And then the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that's like exploring his inner moods and his personality, like his mentality. Right? So the Gita is his identity, the Bhagavatam his activities, Chaitanya Charitamrita is more like his inner moods and personality. Okay, if you don't know what those books are, don't worry about it. That's just like a little tidbit to put the Gita in context of some of the other books that we study. Right? But within the Gita itself, there's a progression here. So in chapter 7 and 8, we're speaking about God's greatness. And then in chapters 9, we're talking about God's sweetness. And then in chapters 10 through 12, those final bhakti chapters, it's the greatness and sweetness together. So that's where we're going here. Right? In this verse 7:2, it's setting the stage. Krishna is saying, I'm going to give you the whole picture. And once you know this, you have the foundation for understanding everything else. Right? I'm going to tell you who I am. And I'm going to tell you how to connect with me. I'm going to tell you what reality is and the relationship between all of those things. Right? So for us, this means that we will know Krishna fully, right? Not just an idea, but personally. We'll know Krishna. Our doubts will fade. Our mind will steady. And we'll begin to see the world and ourselves in connection with him. That's the transformation that Krishna is promising. And it's the heart of this chapter, what's going to unfold here. This is our golden ticket. Okay, so let's move on to the last verse of this section. The last verse we'll talk about today. It's a shorter one. When you're ready, Stella. Are you reading? Because if so, you're on mute.
There I am. Okay, sorry guys. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. And of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth.
Thank you. So Krishna's pointing something out here that's crucial. He's saying truly knowing him is rare. And why is it so rare? Because most people are busy with the basics of life, right? Working to make a living, taking care of their family, building a home, enjoying pleasures, right? Protecting themselves. Right? And these things aren't bad. These things are even necessary. But some people get so caught up in them that they make those things the main objective of their lives. Right? Even people who consider themselves spiritual or connected, they'll often get caught up in these same routines. Some people even practice religion or spirituality so that they can feel secure or happy or successful, right? To get good things in life. And there's nothing wrong with wanting a comfortable life or a loving partner, right? In fact, these things can support spiritual growth. But what the problem is when we get stuck chasing the comfort or happiness itself. Right? We all probably know people, or maybe you have been one of those people that come to spiritual life for something. I know a person one time, I think he was showing up like just to get a girlfriend, right? Like just looking for a girlfriend, which isn't bad in itself, right? But again, we just have to be careful that we're more focused on getting a girlfriend than we are in connection with source. And that's where it can be more of a distraction, right? We want these things to support our spiritual life, right? Not become the main focus of our lives. Right? And because we all know that the soul's true companion is Krishna. We have this word soulmate, right? And people get so caught up in like finding their soul. It's like such a romanticized idea, right? Finding your soulmate, right? But the soul's true companion is Krishna. Our eternal relationship is with Krishna. The material things, relationships, comforts, achievements, even your marriage with your soulmate, right? They're meant to guide us towards that deeper connection with Krishna. Right? But most people never see beyond those temporary rewards. Even among those striving for something higher, very few truly know Krishna. And some people may think they understand God as just like a spiritual force or a presence, right? But recognizing Krishna as the complete, personal, and beautiful source of all is extremely rare. So Krishna is emphasizing this here. He's emphasizing this to like capture Arjuna's attention. It's like he's being offered an exclusive ticket, right? See, and he's like trying to wave it in his face. Like, look at this. This is exclusive. Like, most people don't get this, but I'm giving it to you. And that's what Krishna's doing here with Arjuna, to attract his attention. And people will often misunderstand bhakti yoga as like just like overly emotional, right? Or sentimental, right? Or simple. People like to say that like karma yoga is for like hardworking people. People who have a lot of discipline or focus on strict routines, like this is Ashtanga yoga. Or people that are intellectual, focus on understanding and reasoning, like this is Jnana yoga. And people will like dismiss bhakti yoga as it's like just feelings. But real bhakti yoga, it's not just emotion. It's refined, guided, and powerful devotion of the heart. It's not just like chaos emotions that are just like completely untamed and it's refined, it's guided, it's powerful. right? It may seem easier because it speaks to our natural feelings, but if it were truly easy, everyone would choose it over the harder paths, right? If it's not easy at all, it requires surrender, it requires discipline, it requires love. Because we can't understand Krishna through the senses alone. Right? You can't see him with your eyes or hear him with your ears like ordinary things in the world. Krishna reveals himself to those who serve him with love and devotion. He reveals himself to us. Right? The more we engage in sincere devotional service, the more Krishna's presence and qualities become alive in our hearts. And it's hard work. Right? It requires a lot of discipline, right? A lot of surrender. Right? So in short, knowing Krishna it's a rarity, it's a gift. And it's reserved for those who truly turn to him with love. Not those who are trying to be detached out of pride, right? Still looking down into the material world. No, those who are reaching their arms up, reaching for that golden ticket, right? Doing everything they can to get there, even if they're falling, stumbling, getting back up. Everything else is philosophy, meditation, intellectual understanding, all these other principles that we learned from the other paths, helpful, right? They can help guide us. But it's ultimately bhakti, this heartfelt devotion, that opens the door to really knowing Krishna as he is. And that's really even the purpose of all of the other things, all of the other paths. Right? So what we've seen in this section of chapter 7 is really an invitation from Krishna. He's showing us a way to move from partial knowledge to complete understanding. Right? When we focus our minds on him, when we hear about him sincerely, our doubts begin to dissolve. Right? Our hearts begin to open. Devotion naturally awakens. And our lives start to align with something steady and joyful and true. So it's not just theory or philosophy. Krishna's offering a practical path, this bhakti yoga, right, that's going to transform the mind. It's going to purify the heart. It's going to deepen our experience of life. And it works not through pride in what we've renounced, right, but through love for the Supreme. And when we love Krishna, we love everyone. That's what happens when we develop this love for Krishna. As we keep Krishna as our focus, detachment falls into its proper place. Right? Pride loses its grip. We're no longer looking down into the material realms to satisfy our hearts. Right? Our relationships with others become more supportive and nurturing. Right? So in short, this section of the Gita, this first 3 chapters of chapter 7, it's hear about Krishna. Right? Let that knowledge settle in your heart. And let devotion guide your mind. Step by step, everything else will just fall into place. This is the essence of bhakti. Right? A living, practical, and transformative connection with the absolute. So even if you're caught in that mode of passion or mode of ignorance, if you have like a foot in the door, right, trying to connect with God, it can pull you out of all of those modes, right? And in a split second. And this is why it's even better to have a foot in the door, to be connected to God, than to be just like living at the sattvic platform with no connection to God, right? Because you're likely to fall back down. But at least be reaching for that golden ticket, right? Even if your foot is just caught in mud, right? At least you have an arm up and you're reaching for that golden ticket. That's what Krishna is encouraging us to do. And by this knowledge of him. So this is the first 3 verses of chapter 7. And like I said at the beginning of class, I would love to hear any realizations that this class stirred up from you, or any realizations that you had from the big weekend that we had of Janmashtami and Prabhupada's appearance day. These kinds of experiences, these kinds of bhakti festivals, when we really immerse ourselves with like-minded people in these practices, they start to stir things. They start to stir things in our heart. Sometimes this knowledge has just kind of been sitting there, but these experiences start to stir these things up, and kind of bring them more to this level of knowledge or of realization, right? So anything like that happened for you this weekend, anybody who wants to share, I would love to hear how this bhakti in practice has been working on you.
I'll start. I think my biggest takeaway this weekend, and I ended up just kind of staying home. I was just low energy this week and needed to just be in my own space. So I stayed home and I did some flower offerings, and me and Luna made some garlands, and we read a little bit from her little kids' Krishna book, and that verse came up. Um, it's like Janma Karma. I don't remember all of it, but it's basically like one who remembers me at their time of death is surely to come to me. And when I read that with her this weekend, and then I was chanting my japa and I was really meditating on that, it was just like how rare it is to even get a glimpse of who God is.
Mm.
And like we just had like we were saying earlier, we just have to try to remember him. And then I ended up going to the temple yesterday and I got to like experience these wonderful old time Prabhupada devotees. I mean, they're so elderly now, but they still look so youthful. Like this is kind of weird, but I was just admiring like their skin is so clear and they look so clear, even though I mean they must be in their 80s now. I don't even know, but anyways, they've aged. They look a little bit saggy, but they still look strong and clear and focused. And I'm just like, that's the power of Krishna consciousness. But anyways, another thing was just like they were sharing these wonderful pastimes of Prabhupada and Prabhupada's connection with Krishna. And I'm just like, where else do you get to hear about Krishna? Like about God, the supreme personality of Godhead. Like we don't realize what we're really being given until you develop that love and devotion. It's like even a little bit, like because I don't have it, it's just very tiny. But yeah, it's really this is such a rare thing. I mean, it's being distributed now all over by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Prabhupada, but it's just like it's still so rare. Like I live in Weirton, West Virginia, and I'm probably the only person here that maybe I'm not, but I'm like one of the only people here that is on Gita podcast, that's trying to read and connect with Krishna. And I want to give it to more people, but it's just like so many people they don't even think about God. Or if they do, it's some abstract thought of like you were saying, just the rays of the sun. It's just this all pervading, yeah, he's omniscient, he's omnipotent, I should connect with him, but they have no idea really how, other than praying for material benefit. And that's okay, they're at where they're at. But to really understand like God is a person, you have an eternal relationship with him. You can remember that relationship. Like that's really just hitting me deeper. Like such a rare gift that we have here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. And our texts have like more descriptions of God than any other text out there, like it's like real, like describing who God is, right? Like what he looks like. These kinds of descriptions only exist in this path, in this tradition.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah,
It's
who he
Vedic.
is, what he likes to eat, how he
Yeah.
plays, like how he appreciates that he has a mother that takes care of him and he has friends that don't treat him like God. It's like, wow, like what? Like we all have this, oh, God is the master and we all bow down, but God's like, well, I also a little boy that you can like, I'll carry you on my shoulders if you want me to,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mariah. Anybody else want to share a realization as their knowledge is becoming more realized? Yeah, Shakti.
So last night, after like I spent like an hour on my altar after I set up everything, and I was crying. Like was just looking in his eyes and looking in Radha, and I felt like such this emotion. I didn't like, it just started happening like now. And so I came upstairs because and I have a space for him in the basement. And and I said to my husband, I said, I want to start a bhakti circle. He's like, what is that? I'm like, it's just inviting Krishna conscious people to my house and to the house. And we would, maybe everyone brings a dish, we have a kirtan, we have a talk, maybe we read a chapter, a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. I don't know. I don't really know what that is, but I want to make one. And he's like, all right, I'll make you a flyer.
Oh,
So I'm like, if I could bring that into my house and like, and be able to even bring them downstairs and we could chant in front of the altar, like that's a samskara. Like those are the things that's what, after this weekend, I thought, I want that. I want
mm,
the connection. Like I was doing crowd control right next to the kirtan. And I just thought, oh God, like, this is my service. Thank you, Krishna. Thank you for this service, you know? And
mm.
yeah, I mean, it's just like, I don't, if I were to look back, if you would have told me this is how I would be 10 years ago, I'd be like, no. But like, so grateful that this is how I am.
Yeah.
So
Oh, it's
thank you so
beautiful.
much for sharing every day.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, every week.
Thank you. Thank you, Stacy. Yeah. And we do that in Pittsburgh. We have a little Sangha every month. We take turns actually hosting at different people's house. And we just have, it's like a kirtan potluck. We just sing kirtan. We have a little potluck. We, socialize. It's really sweet and connecting. You get to just
That's
get a little bit closer, get to know each other better and share and open up your house to hearing God's names. It's beautiful.
that's even that's actually what I'm talking about. Like I didn't know, and I put a little picture of my altar in the of my new altar,
Yeah.
and but that's, I mean, like that's the idea. I don't want it to be at my house. Like I just thought if I can get it started, then it would
Yeah.
turn into whatever Krishna wants it to be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really purifying. We're going to Mariah's this month, actually. Anybody in Pittsburgh wants to come. I'll just invite anybody who's listening who wants to come. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else want to share any realization from the weekend? Any takeaway? Or the class, or just life in general? Because this happens as we imbibe this knowledge more and more, it becomes more realized and we see it showing up in our lives in different ways and it becomes more natural. We start living it, just small aspects of it, little by little. This knowledge becomes more and more realized. Yeah. What did you just say on the chat, Narayani? It's Krishna's house now, and Shakti Devi can take care of Krishna's house. Yeah, so beautiful. Oh, I see, Shakti Devi, you posted your deity, picture of your deity. So nice. Yeah. Oh, wow. Those are beautiful. You'll have to share it on our chat too. Yeah. Well, thank you all. Thank you all for coming and sharing with open hearts. And let this be like our prayer and our meditation this week. Is Lord, please help this knowledge in my heart become more realized. Help me to not only know this knowledge, but to live this knowledge. It's a bridge, and we're crossing it. And the bhakti path helps us to do that. It gives us tools, it gives us practical guidance and steps to make this knowledge, realized and transform our lives. So thank you all for being here and sharing your beautiful bright lights. And I'll see you all on Thursday.
Hare Krishna.